Child, greatness isn't born, it's carved. You must move with purpose, speak with clarity, and live like tomorrow hears your footsteps. Walk tall, place wisdom before pride, and bless each soul you meet. For when your habits honor your spirit, your life becomes a symphony, full, rich, and gloriously unshaken. Be proactive. It's more than a suggestion, it is a way of life. It means standing in the center of your own soul, looking at the world not with blame in your eyes, but with fire in your belly. It is understanding that the winds of circumstance may blow wild, but they do not decide where your ship will sail. No storm controls your direction if you've claimed the wheel. And child, that's what being proactive is. It is holding tight to your own wheel. You see, the world will always be loud. It will hand you disappointments wrapped in velvet lies. It will tell you that you are powerless, that you are too late, too early, too something. But let me tell you what I know. You were not born to drift. You were born to decide. You are the author of your life, not the editor of someone else's script. Being proactive means choosing your response before the world even finishes its sentence. It means refusing to wait for permission to live deliberately. There will be days when nothing goes your way, when doors don't just close, they slam, when people misunderstand your silence and mock your presence. But in those moments, the proactive soul does not fall back. No, the proactive soul leans in. They ask, "What can I do?" Not why me, but what now? They know that circumstances may bend the body, but they never have to break the will. To be proactive is to speak your truth when silence is easier. It's rising early when sleep wants to keep you numb. It's taking ownership of your choices, even when others offer you blame as a blanket. It's not a performance. It's a promise to yourself, a sacred one. Because people who wait to be rescued are often left waiting. But people who stand up and walk toward purpose meet destiny halfway. There is a quiet power in proactive living. It is not loud, not boastful. It does not wave its arms or beg for attention. No, it moves like rivers do, cutting through stone not with force, but with persistence. A proactive soul wakes up every day and chooses not just what to do, but who to be. They don't ask the world to change before they act. They act, and by doing so, they change the world. Now, don't confuse this with control. Being proactive is not about controlling everything around you. It is about mastering the one thing you will always have: yourself. Your words, your thoughts, your reactions, your energy. You see, people will talk, life will press, trials will come, but your character, your discipline, your joy, that belongs to you. And the proactive person guards it like treasure. So many folks go through life reacting, jumping at shadows, fighting ghosts, carrying wounds they never chose. But when you are proactive, you stop carrying the fire that burned you. You let it teach you. You take the lesson, not the scar. You write your future with your hands, not your pain. And child, that's power. A reactive soul waits for the mood to strike, for conditions to be perfect. A proactive one, they move anyway. They make imperfect steps on uncertain paths with faith as their compass. They don't need everyone to understand them because they understand themselves. They don't need applause to keep going because their fire comes from within. And let me say this, being proactive doesn't mean life becomes easy. No. It means you meet life on your feet. It means you get up again and again and again because your spirit doesn't know how to quit. You plan, you prepare, you pray, and then you move. You don't wait for the stars to align. You trust that you are a constellation all your own. You are not a victim of your days. You are the architect of them. Your time, your focus, your voice, these are your tools. And if you use them with intention, if you rise each morning with clarity, grace, and determination, you will shape a life that answers not to chance, but to choice. Be proactive. Live on purpose. Walk with the knowledge that you are not just a witness to your story, you are the writer, the warrior, and the wonder of it all. Begin with the end in mind. That is not just instruction, it is a calling. It's the art of seeing beyond what's in front of you and stepping into what has not yet come to pass. It is dreaming aloud through your actions, sculpting your future with the decisions you make today. Because, child, nothing meaningful is ever built without a vision. A life without direction is like a song with no melody. No matter how loud it plays, it never moves the soul. When you begin with the end in mind, you don't walk blindly. You walk like someone who knows where they're going. You don't chase every noise. You follow your own inner music. It's a commitment to be led not by the moment, but by the mission. It's setting your eyes on something greater than your current circumstance, something deeper than your temporary emotion. There are people who wake up each day without a compass. They let the world decide who they are, how they feel, where they go. But you are not them. You must wake up with intention burning in your bones. Ask yourself, what kind of life do I want to leave behind? What kind of legacy do I want my name to carry long after my footsteps have faded? Because when you begin with the end in mind, every small choice begins to matter. Every habit becomes sacred. Every word becomes legacy. Now, don't misunderstand. This is not about chasing applause or titles. No, it's about alignment. When your days match your destiny, when your routine reflects your vision, you begin to live in power. The person who begins with the end in mind does not waste energy proving themselves to the world. They are too busy becoming who they already know they're meant to be. They don't follow trends. They follow truth, their truth. This way of living demands courage because it asks you to leave comfort behind and reach for clarity. It asks you to choose discipline over distraction. It requires that you say no to what is good so you can say yes to what is divine. A person with vision is dangerous to fear, to mediocrity, to delay, because they are not swayed by the noise of the day. They are moved by what they see in the stillness of their spirit. To begin with the end in mind is to honor your future self. It is to build a bridge between who you are and who you were born to become. It is not an escape from the present, but an elevation of it. You bring meaning to your now because you have already spoken to your tomorrow. You are not walking in circles. You are walking toward completion. You must sit with your dreams long enough to give them structure. Long enough to see not just the beauty of the destination, but the price of the journey. A clear vision will cost you. It will cost you comfort. It will cost you shallow relationships. It will cost you some nights of rest. But what it gives back cannot be measured. It gives you focus. It gives you fire. It gives you a reason to rise. And child, don't let this world rush you. Beginning with the end in mind does not mean you get there overnight. It means you move with patience and precision. It means you are not impressed by speed, but by direction. You take your time planting seeds because you know what you're growing. You don't panic when others bloom before you because your harvest is tied to your vision, not theirs. When trials come, and they will, your vision becomes your anchor. When distractions whisper, your purpose speaks louder. When the day feels heavy and your hands feel tired, you remember why you started. You began with the end in mind, and that end calls to you even in the dark. You were not made to wander, you were made to arrive. So build your days like a sculptor chisels stone with the final form in mind. Move with grace and grit, knowing that every act of today shapes the story of tomorrow. You are the designer of your life, and vision is your blueprint. Begin each morning like a builder with a map in hand and a dream in heart. Because when you begin with the end in mind, you don't just live, you lead your life with purpose. Put first things first, not just in thought, but in practice. In every hour, every breath, every step you take, life, child, will try to pull you in all directions at once. It will place noise beside your peace distraction beside your calling, and urgency beside what is truly important. And if you're not rooted in what matters most, you'll end up busy but not blessed, moving but not forward, surrounded but not fulfilled. Putting first things first is the quiet daily act of choosing what feeds your purpose before what flatters your ego. It's setting your spirit in order before your schedule gets crowded. It's deciding that the deepest parts of you deserve your clearest attention. The world will not slow down for your dreams. It will crowd your days with the things that scream the loudest. But child, the loudest thing is not always the most important. Some of the most sacred priorities whisper, and you must be still enough to hear them. There will always be more to do, more people asking for your time, more tasks that masquerade as necessities. But you must become the keeper of your own life. You must protect your purpose like it's gold, because it is. And when you put first things first, you say no to what's urgent so you can say yes to what's eternal. You stop chasing approval and start seeking alignment. Every day you are offered choices, some that sparkle and some that ground you. The sparkle fades, but the grounding builds something real. And when you start with what truly matters, everything else finds its place. Your peace deepens, your mind sharpens, your life unfolds, not in chaos, but in rhythm. And oh, what beauty there is in a life lived in rhythm with what matters most. Now, don't confuse this with perfection. This is not about having it all figured out. It's about having the courage to choose your center and return to it again and again. It's about recognizing when you've drifted and gently guiding yourself back to solid ground. People may not understand. They may call you rigid, too serious, too focused, but let them talk. They do not know what you are building. You do. And putting first things first isn't about just doing the hard things. It's about doing the right things. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's choosing quiet over noise, rest over hustle, meaning over momentum. It's waking up early not to prove something, but to protect something. Your peace, your calling, your time with God, with yourself, with those you love. It's recognizing that you cannot pour from a cup that is cracked, and you cannot lead if you've forgotten who you are. Some people live their whole lives putting urgent things first. They climb ladders leaning against the wrong walls. They chase fires that should have never been lit. But not you. You are learning to be still, to look within before you look around, to make decisions not out of fear or habit, but out of wisdom. You are learning that discipline is not punishment. It is devotion, a devotion to your higher self, to your higher calling, to the life you are here to live. Putting first things first is a practice of reverence. It means treating your time like it matters because it does. It means honoring your energy because not everyone deserves access to it. It means that just because something is expected doesn't mean it's essential. You learn to pause, to question, to choose again. You learn to say, this matters, this does not. And you stand in that truth even when it's hard. Because when you do, you begin to walk differently. You carry peace in your posture. You no longer move just to be seen. You move because your steps are aligned with something greater. You live not for the moment, but for the meaning. You stop rushing and start rising. You become unshakable, not because life gets easier, but because you've learned what to carry and what to lay down. So breathe deep, child. Sit with your priorities. Let them speak to you. Let them guide your hands, your words, your hours. The world will always be in a hurry, but you can choose to live on purpose. You can choose to put first things first, and in doing so, you'll find that everything else begins to fall into place. Think win-win. It is not a strategy. It is a way of seeing, a way of living, a way of rising without stepping on anyone to do so. It is the understanding that your light does not dim because someone else is shining. that success is not pie. There is more than enough to go around. When you think win-win, you break free from the belief that for you to win, someone else must lose. You begin to move through life not as a competitor, but as a collaborator, not as a taker, but as a builder. In a world taught to compare, to climb, to conquer, choosing to think win-win is revolutionary, but it is also healing. It reminds you that you are not defined by scarcity. You are not fighting for scraps. You are not standing in lack. You are walking in abundance. When you think win-win, you see people not as obstacles or threats, but as mirrors, teachers, fellow travelers. You understand that the best outcomes are the ones where hearts are preserved and dignity is not a casualty of ambition. Now, this kind of thinking doesn't come easy. Not when you've been taught to guard yourself, to always stay a step ahead, to win at all costs. The world will try to convince you that kindness is weakness, that generosity leaves you behind. But child, don't believe that lie. There is strength in grace. There is power in peace. There is victory in valuing others while still valuing yourself. Thinking win-win begins with how you see yourself. If you don't believe in your own worth, you'll always fear that someone else's gain is your loss. You'll play small. You'll hold back. Or worse, you'll try to take what was never yours to begin with. But when you stand firm in your own value, you no longer need to diminish others to feel tall. You know who you are, and you don't have to push anyone down to prove it. There is enough room for all of us, enough dreams, enough space, enough opportunity. And when we embrace that truth, we begin to make choices from love, not lack. We begin to share credit, to uplift others, to seek solutions that don't just benefit ourselves, but serve the whole. You start looking at your team, your family, your community, and asking, how can we all win? How can we grow together? Thinking win-win is not about avoiding conflict. No, it's about facing conflict with the intention to honor both sides. It's saying, let's find a way where your needs matter and mine do too. It's hard work. It requires humility, patience, creativity. It takes the ability to listen, not just to argue, but to understand. But the reward is rich, because when people feel seen, respected, and valued, they give their best. They trust. They show up. When you live this way, people notice. They feel safe around you. They know you don't need to dominate or manipulate to feel strong. They know your presence doesn't take from them, it adds. And that, child, is leadership. That is influence. That is the kind of energy that shifts rooms and transforms relationships. It's not loud, not forceful, but it is deeply felt. Think of your life as a garden. You don't grow the tallest tree by choking the ones beside it. You rise by tending the soil around you, by nourishing others while standing in your own sun. When one flower blooms, it invites others to bloom too. That's the win-win spirit. That's how communities thrive, how families strengthen, how love multiplies. And yes, there will be moments when people don't match your mindset. Some will still compete, still take, still assume the world is a battlefield. Don't let that shake you. Don't let it harden your heart. Stay rooted in what you know, that love is not a weakness and collaboration is not surrender. You can hold boundaries and still seek harmony. You can protect your peace and still pursue fairness. You can win, and so can they. When you think win-win, you stop walking through life looking over your shoulder. You move with peace. You speak with clarity. You give without fear and receive without guilt. And in doing so, you create a world that reflects not just your goals, but your values. A world where success is shared, where joy is multiplied, and where no one has to lose for someone else to rise. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. That, child, is the language of wisdom. It is the art of putting your ego in your back pocket and opening your heart wide enough to listen with more than your ears. This kind of listening, it doesn't wait to speak. It doesn't rehearse replies while someone else is revealing their soul. It listens to feel. It listens to learn. It listens because it values the person more than the point. In a world full of noise, everyone is talking, but few are hearing. Voices rise, but hearts stay closed. And yet, the deepest connection is born not from loud speech, but from quiet attention. When you choose to understand first, you're doing something radical. You're telling the other person, you matter, your story matters, your pain, your joy, your confusion. It all deserves space before my opinion does. That kind of grace can heal wounds too deep for words. This principle isn't about giving up your truth. No, it's about anchoring your truth in compassion. Because when people feel seen, they soften. When they feel heard, they open. So many arguments could fade if we dared to ask one more question instead of offering one more opinion. If we stepped into someone's shoes before we threw judgment at their steps. Understanding is not about agreeing, it's about acknowledging. And sometimes acknowledgement is the very thing a soul needs to breathe again. When you seek first to understand, you slow down. You become less interested in winning the conversation and more interested in honoring the person. You lean in, not to debate, but to discern, not to correct, but to connect. You don't just hear what is said, you listen for what is not being said. The pain beneath the anger, the fear beneath the silence, the longing behind the laughter. Real understanding sees layers. It holds space. And yes, it takes work. It takes maturity to pause your own narrative so someone else can share theirs. It takes strength to not rush to defend, to not fight to be right, but to be real, to say, I may not have lived what you've lived, but I'm here to listen. I'm here to know you better. You'd be surprised what softens when you say that, how much clarity rises when we stop trying to dominate every moment. Child, people carry stories they've never told. They walk into rooms weighed down by chapters they don't know how to share. When you seek first to understand, you become a safe space for those stories. You become the kind of person others feel they can exhale around. And let me tell you, there is no greater gift than being a place where people can put their guard down. But don't stop there. Once you've understood, once you've truly listened, then you speak. Not to overpower, but to enlighten. Not to win, but to build. When your voice follows your listening, it carries weight. It no longer demands attention. It earns respect. Your words become bridges, not walls. And in that space, understanding flows both ways. This is how we rise, by slowing down enough to feel each other's humanity, by putting understanding before being understood. Because when we do, we don't just change conversations, we change relationships, we change atmospheres. We make it safe to speak and safer to listen. That's power, that's presence, that's love in action. So let them speak. Let them tell their side. Let them cry, question, stumble through their thoughts. And you hold space. Ask questions that open, not close. Listen like you're sitting at the feet of a sacred story because you are. And when it's your turn, speak with the same care you wish had been given to you. That, child, is how understanding begins. Not with thunder, but with tenderness. Not with noise, but with stillness. And in that stillness, something holy grows. Synergize and renew. Two wings of the same bird, lifting you higher than you could ever rise alone. To synergize is to come together, not just side by side, but soul by soul. It is where differences don't divide, they deepen the strength. Where ideas do not compete, they complete one another. Where one voice sounds like truth, but many voices sound like wisdom. There is a sacred power in unity, child, and it does not shout. It moves quietly, like roots beneath the soil, feeding something far greater than itself. The world loves independence, and there is beauty in standing strong. But the magic, the miracle, comes when people bring their strengths to the same table and say, let's build something that none of us could build alone. Synergy is not sameness, it is harmony. The way voices blend in a choir, each one adding a layer, a texture, a sound that would be incomplete on its own. That's synergy. That's the dance between what you bring and what someone else carries. You don't have to lose yourself to work together. That's the lie. Real collaboration doesn't shrink your soul, it stretches it. It takes your gift, sharpens it against another's, and creates something better, something neither of you saw coming. You begin with what you know, and you end with something brand new, something neither of you could have reached without the other. That's not compromise, that's creation. But it takes courage to synergize. It takes humility. You have to be willing to listen, to be wrong, to learn, to let go of being the smartest person in the room. You have to honor what others see, even if their vision colors outside your lines. And when you do, child, when you open that space, the universe rushes in with possibilities. Look at nature. The forest doesn't grow because the trees compete. It thrives because everything works together. The roots, the soil, the rain, the sun. Every element, every difference contributes to a greater good. That's what we're called to do. To bring our individuality into a collective purpose. To become more together than we are apart. But you can't synergize if you're running on empty. That's where renewal comes in. Renewal is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is pausing before you break. It is resting before you unravel. It's understanding that your light cannot shine without oil in your lamp. Some people grind themselves into dust, believing that exhaustion is proof of success. But burnout is not a badge of honor. It's a signal. It's the soul's way of saying, come back to center, fill your well. Renewal isn't just physical rest. It's emotional clarity, spiritual stillness, mental peace. It's walking through nature and letting your breath slow to match the trees. It's silence in a world that worships noise. It's laughter with someone who sees you, music that moves you, time that doesn't demand anything from you. And when you return from that stillness, you're not just refreshed, you're realigned. You cannot pour into others when you are empty. You cannot synergize when you are bitter, broken, or burned out. So you must protect your energy like it is sacred, because it is. You must check in with your spirit as often as you check your phone. You must be bold enough to say, I need rest. I need solitude. I need to return to myself before I give myself to the world again. Synergy and renewal go hand in hand. One feeds the work, the other feeds the soul. One builds togetherness, the other builds resilience. And when you hold both, when you bring your full, rested, honest self to a group of others doing the same, you birth miracles. You make progress that's not just fast, but lasting. You create something deeply human, deeply divine. So stand strong, yes, but know when to lean, know when to rest, know when to open your hands and share the work, the vision, the burden. There is no shame in needing others. There is no weakness in needing to stop. When you synergize and renew, you honor both your purpose and your peace. And that, child, is how greatness is sustained. When you choose to live by these habits, to be proactive, to begin with the end in mind, to put first things first, to think win-win, to seek first to understand, then to be understood, to synergize and to renew, you are not just organizing your time, you are aligning your life. These are not just steps to success, child, they are steps to wholeness. You begin to live not by reaction, but by intention. You build a life that is deep, not just wide, meaningful, not just busy. You become someone who leads with clarity, listens with compassion, connects with courage, and rests with wisdom. You no longer drift, you decide. You no longer compete, you collaborate. You no longer burn out, you bloom. And in doing so, you don't just transform your own life. You become the reason someone else believes theirs can change too. That is power. That is legacy. That is how transformation begins, from the inside out.